In the thick fog, voices creep, echoes of those who never truly left the shore. Dawn broke over Baywatch Point like a slow bruise blooming beneath an unyielding sky. The abandoned military base swallowed in a suffocating shroud of clammy fog that clung to the rusted iron and rotting wood like a second skin. Vines twisted like the sinews of forgotten corpses, curling around rusted artillery with fingers sharp as shards, each coil heavy with the scent of wet earth and salt-laden rot. Beneath that wet cloak, the air pressed close, thick with the stoutness of memories brewed long and bitter, seeping into my lungs with every hesitant breath. Each step cracked softly over fractured concrete, the sharp, brittle noise slicing through the eggshell silence. Beneath my boots, the muddy ground sucked cold against my soles, a low throb like the heartbeat of something still alive but buried beneath years of silence. This was no mere ruin. It was a tomb exhaling slow and labored beneath an autumn sky tinged with the chill of things unsaid. Decades had gnawed at the skeletal remains at the base, weathering time and neglect until its once proud cannons lay like broken ribs, monstrous claws of rust clutching empty bays, as if refusing to release their charge. Local voices carried tales thick with dread. Old soldiers who never crossed the final line, whose hollow eyes gazed through shattered bunkers, trapped forever between the slanting rays of dawn and the choking dust of oblivion. Yet, despite the rot and whispered warnings, a shard of defiance burned in my chest. I wasn't just a visitor haunted by stories. This wasteland was my past, made flesh, a place where nights stretched endless with looming dread and prayers never answered. I had returned not to claim closure, but to wrest truth from the hands of shadows. The morning held its breath. The fog devoured every fragment of sound but my breath, ragged and stained with cold that bit like shattered glass beneath my skin, uncoiling icy tendrils that twined deep into muscle and bone. Beside me, the command center's ruins whispered secrets in the rustling wind, the brittle leaves scratching their brittle lament against cracked windows. I stopped, senses prickling, a cold presence pulsing just beyond the veil of sight, a predator poised in the choking stillness. Then came a scrape, uneven and raw, slicing through the silence behind the thick thicket of overgrown tents. Probably just a fox, I breathed, but the words tasted bitter, hollow, swallowed instantly by the heavy atmosphere. This place had folded itself into a mausoleum, breath held tight, and I was the interloper disturbing its fragile vigil. Deeper into the tangled graveyard of war, my gaze snagged on a fragment that tore at my heart. A faded photograph, its edges curling with age, pinned to a rusted locker by a splintered nail. My squad stared from its faded face, ghosts immortalized in grainy smiles, young faces eager before war's cruel carving. But my likeness bore fresh wounds. A brutal slash gouged across my visage, as if the dead demanded their own scars. My throat closed like a constricting noose. Who's been here? I rasped, voice fragile, cracking beneath the weight of unseen eyes. From the thick fog, whispers seeped, fractured and ephemeral, like radio static fracturing through damp wires, syllables lost to the wind but weighted with dread. Orders barked, desperate cries tearing through the dense silence, warped and stretched as if dragged underwater by invisible currents. The cadence bent and fractured, a language once clear now, a haunting melody of fear and command, dissolving with each labored inhale. I strained to seize meaning from the cold clutch gripping my senses, my voice a raw thread pulled taut. Are you real? Are you, me? The question faded, swallowed by oppressive stillness, answered only by the void's patient hunger. A deeper chill snaked up my spine as I edged toward the artillery yard. The cannons, blind and broken, lay like hibernating beasts with mouths turned to the restless gray sea. Thorny vines writhed like serpents in the damp air, their jagged edges twitching beneath unbroken fog. Suddenly, a clatter shattered the brittle quiet. Shadows folded beneath tangled branches, shifting like smoke catching in a dying flame. My breath hitched, heart hammered a frantic rhythm as a figure ghosted into view, hazy as mist, the battered uniform coagulated with shadows and soaked through with a smell of cold iron and old blood. Jacob, it breathed. My old name, fragile and raw like a wound we both tried to hide beneath years of silence. Panic ignited in my gut, twisting with cold dread. Who are you? What do you want? My voice quivered, fractured and brittle. I am what remains, those you left behind, the apparition replied, sorrow and rage fused in its flickering form. We linger long after the guns fell silent, unquiet souls tangled in a war that refuses to end. The fog thickened, clutching me with frozen hands as memories surged, a tsunami of battles lost, comrades consumed by shadow, secrets buried beneath layers of silence and lies. The decades of paranoia I'd kept caged within me fractured, cracking with renewed fury. Was this the cruel torment of ghosts, or the unraveling of my own mind? The past clawed at me with sharpened nails, desperate to be pulled into the light. Suddenly sharp voices cracked through the air from the ridge, figures advancing, weapons raised, blurred between flesh and phantoms. The local warnings echoed like distant thunder. None had dared cross here, not even those who survived. I saw then the deadly weave of spectral vengeance and human betrayal, a tangled, bleeding mesh of memory, regret, and violence left unspent. Trapped between worlds, nowhere to hide, I faced their hollow eyes and shadowy clawing. The boundary thinned, cruel and fluid, hunter and hunted spiraling deeper into a suffocating fog that swallowed the world whole. Then, as if reluctantly relieved, the sun crept upward, the biting cold bled away, and the ghosts dissolved like smoke rising from a funeral pyre, leaving only a brittle breeze and a mournful susurrus etched into waking silence. We wait still. Alone, I stood as daylight bled into the forsaken base. Silence, absolute once more. Yet the fresh scars on the photograph remained, an eternal wound on time's fragile skin. And somewhere within the thickening fog, Jacob was lost forever, one phantom among many, his whispered name fading with the dying light. If the shadows of your past began to whisper, would you face them or run? Share your fears, and stay close for tales that haunt the edges of the mind.